Today we have the next machine to begin with, which is Mr. Robot. So, as always, whenever we are targeting a new device, new machine, what we do first is we try to figure out the IP address. So, that is what we are going to do. I'm just going to wait a minute to let that machine boot up. Okay, so that VM is up. Now we can use net discover, or we can simply use nmap as well. So let me just confirm my own IP. Okay, this is the interface that I'm targeting. Okay, so that's network. So nmap hyphen sn for just a ping sweep, and the IP, of course, so 10.0.2.1 slash 24. Okay, so currently it's telling us that there are three IPs that are up in this network. And what if I use net discover for the same thing? Now the slash 24 option does not really work well with this. So I switch to 16. Okay, so there was one IP found. But I'd actually like to run this thing again. I have made some changes to that VM's network adapter. Let me just run this again. So still the same thing. So now if I try to, okay, let's just try to ping that system first. 243. Okay, so we are receiving a response. Now let's try a basic nmap scan. Okay, so it's showing us that there's port 80 and there's port 443. So there's a web server definitely, and even port 22 is, it's saying as closed, so there's nothing we can do in that case. But let's try accessing port 80, see what we get there. So port 80 means the web server. I simply need to use the IP here, 2.243. Okay, so this is the web server that we are getting. If I look at the source code, it says something like you are not alone. No, the thing is, this Mr. Robot CTF, it's based on a TV show of the same name. So that is the theme of this CTF. And actually, you will find quite a few CTFs which are, you know, based on popular movies or TV shows. So this is one of them as well. Now, just by looking at this page or even by looking at this source code, we are not really getting any kind of information. So let's try running derb and see what we can find out. So does anyone remember what derb does and why we are using it? No, no one. Brute force. Okay. So we're trying to brute force what exactly? Pardon? Okay, we are trying to brute force paths that we can find on this web server. So we're trying to see what else we can access besides just the default page. And meanwhile, what we can also do is we can go for a slightly more thorough scan for our system, our target system that is. Okay, so even this scan for all the ports, even this says that there's only two ports which are open. Everything else is either filtered or closed. Okay, so what we can try to do is we can try to run a vulnerability scanning script for these particular ports and see if it comes up with something. Okay, my bad. Let's see whether we can find something in derb. Okay, okay, so there is one directory that it has found. So 243/0. Okay, let's try accessing that. 0. Let's see. Okay, so this is taking us to a portion of the website which uses WordPress. But the thing is, again, there are no entries here. Okay, no archives, no posts, nothing. So what we can do is we can try to log in, see if any default passwords work. So the first thing you always try is admin, see if that works. Invalid username. Okay, it didn't work. So now this does not mean that there is no admin account present on this WordPress website. It just means that the name of the admin account would not be admin. It would be named something else. Now, since like I already mentioned, this is based on the TV show of the same name, we could try using some names which might be relevant to that show itself. So, is anyone familiar with it? Has any of you seen that show? Know anyone character names that we could use as possible usernames for this blog? Anyone? No? No one is familiar with the show? Okay. So it's actually, it relates to hacking. It's a huge part of the show. And what we can do is we can simply try to use some of the character names here. So let's see whether Mr. Robot itself would work. Okay, it says invalid username. Okay, so maybe one name didn't work. We could try something else. We could try the name of the companies maybe. Doesn't work either. Okay, let's try using the name of the protagonist. Okay, it says that the password you entered for the username Elliot is incorrect. That means there is a username Elliot which exists on this system. So we have found an existing username or a valid username, but the password is something that we have not yet discovered. Okay, we could come to that later. I mean, of course, the first thing you could try is a combination of the username as a password itself. IoT, let's see whether this works. Okay, so this does not work. No problems. Let's go back to the website for a moment. There's actually, see, whenever you are testing a website, there is one thing that you should always check first. This scan hasn't finished yet. Okay, whenever you scan a website, whenever you test a website, what is one of the first things that you should check for? What is one of the first files that you try to find out on a website? No, no takers for this one either. Okay, so the first thing that you check, okay, one thing you can do is you can check the page source, see if you find any clues in here. Okay, so now this could be a possible password. You are not alone. You could try that. Let's see if it works. Okay, yeah, actually, what the zero here and login. Okay, that does not work. One of the other things that you should always check for a website is this, the presence of a file known as robots.txt. So it's a text file and it tells all these web crawlers that belong to search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, what pages they are allowed and what they are not allowed to look into. So there might be some sensitive data concerning the website that you would not like that, okay, you would not want that data to appear in search results. So you can include that in your robots.txt files. So that is also the first one of the first things you check when you are targeting a website. Now in this case, our file contains a couple of things for us. So one is this fsociety.dic and the other is this key1of3.txt. Okay, so let's try visiting this URL first. I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Okay, so this is a value that we've received, and for this Mr. Robot CTF, this is the first flag or the first key out of a total of 3 keys. So the first key we have now found. Another file that is mentioned is fsociety.dic. Okay, let's try and access this as well. See what this is. Okay, I have copied it. Okay, so it's actually telling us to download the file. I already have this downloaded. So go here. Now see, even our Nmap vulnerability scan found this robots.txt file along with other login pages and stuff. But again, the login page is, of course, while it is useful, we don't have the password currently. But we have received this file. I think we should check what that file contains. So I'm just going to open the file. Okay, first I'm going to see what kind of file it is. With the file command, downloads, and if it's not able to find out, okay, let's just view the file contents with the less command. Okay, so this actually looks like it contains a lot of different words, and this could be a word list or a dictionary file, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so where could we possibly use this now? What use could we make of this? No clues. Okay. So we found this word list. Now we could use a dictionary attack to try and log in to the Elliot account. So we can do that. And the tool I'm going to use is this WP scan. Okay, so if I look at the help menu, it also has a password for trying to log in onto a website. Okay, so one of the options I'll pass is this password attack. So WP login, which is the WordPress login page. So that is what we're targeting. So WP scan. First thing is URL, of course, which is, and then this password attack option. WP login. And of course, I need to present the username and the password. So for the username, what option do we use? This -u for the username, which is Elliot. And the password, now of course, we don't know the password. We are going to use a dictionary attack. So I can say that the file that we want to use for the passwords is that fsociety.dic, which is a dictionary file. That's why they've named it .dic. And okay, that's what we want to do. So I can simply press enter now. To update, okay, it's not a bad idea to update the database. Okay, so after it performed the preliminary scan on the WordPress website, it's now trying to attack the password. Sorry, attack the login form with a dictionary file that we have specified. What machine did you try that on, Vijay? What machine are you talking about? Mr. Robot or basic pen testing? Which one? while finding IPs in our network. So that depends on what the kind of device was. For example, certain kinds of mobile devices don't really respond well to Nmap scans. See, finding vulnerable devices is a matter of chance. Not every device you see will be exactly hackable. But for this course, if you are just practicing along with what I'm teaching, you can just download these VMs and set them up on your system. So go through that first. Go practice these things first. And of course, you can't just go about hacking any device that you find unless you own that device or have permission to do that. You can't really just hack anything you come across. Otherwise, you can get into a lot of trouble for it. Okay, now the thing is we are running a dictionary attack here. So now these attacks tend to be, time consuming because there are a lot of factors that are present here. One is the speed of this tool itself, the speed at which it sends request. Another is the speed at which that server is able to respond. Okay, the server in our target machine, which is Mr. Robot in this case. So these factors, they define how fast or how slow this attack is going to proceed. So I would like you to try out this attack on your own. Okay, so have you guys set up this Mr. Robot VM on your systems? So try this out on your systems, on your machines. Run this password attack and see what answer you find. Now, again, this can take some time, this password cracking attacks. All password cracking attacks are usually time consuming, but this is an important step of the process. Unless we are able to crack this password, we won't be able to proceed forward with getting access to the target system. So try running this scan on your systems and see what password you are able to get from this. So when we find the password for this, we'll continue with attacking this machine.